finding your comfortable semi-supine position. And I've got a bit of luxury this morning. I've brought a pillow in just for under the head. So if you do have a blanket or a pillow, feel free to use it. And just to allow a moment for the body to settle, for you to find your most comfortable position. Taking that time to maybe move the feet a little bit. Work out how the lower back is feeling. Feet further away, a little bit more support for the lower back. Feet closer into the body, more of the natural lumbar arch in the spine. Hands can rest down by the sides of the body or on the belly. And just encouraging the shoulders to soften towards the floor. The tongue to rest in the lower part of the mouth. And breathing in and out through the nose if that's possible this morning. So today we're going to be focusing on the nervous system, sort of quieting the nervous system, calming the nervous system. And so with that in mind, beginning to tune into your breath. Noting the rise and fall of the body, which parts of the body are moving with the breath. And beginning to encourage the belly to rise as you inhale and fall as you exhale. Expanding the belly as you inhale. And the belly will fall naturally with gravity, but a gentle drawing back, navel towards spine as you exhale. So maybe beginning to notice the belly massaging the internal organs. From the digestive system all the way to the heart. And if you feel the breath is flowing, is smooth, feels like it's coming easily, maybe you start to bring in a pause at the end of the inhalation, at the end of an exhalation. So breathing in, pausing, breathing out, and pausing. Just for one count, not for long. And if you try, it feels too restrictive or it's just not working for you this morning, letting that go and coming back to the abdominal breathing. taking 3 more breaths in your own time, working with your own rhythm. And as quietly as you can when you've taken those 3 breaths, rolling over onto your front. We're going to come into an extended child's pose. So maybe bringing some padding under the feet or even in between the knees. The big toes come together, knees wide apart. And in this version, we're going to have the elbows on the floor, hands are spread, forearms parallel, shoulders away from ears. Just finding a shape that works for you, encouraging any comforts and support you need. Head and neck in line with spine. And we're going to continue with our breathing. So breathing in through the nose, breathing out through the nose. Still encouraging the belly to rise and fall, so you may be able to feel this as it expands, pushing into your inner thighs. And as you exhale, drawing the navel towards the spine. The flow is coming easily again as we've transitioned into this shape. Maybe incorporating the pause at the end of the inhalation and at the end of the exhalation again. And maybe you notice the difference in breathing within the shape compared to when we're lying on our backs. There's a bit more space around the back of the body. So as we breathe in, maybe we're able to notice the back of the rib cage expanding a little more. So we know around 70% of the breath goes into the back of the lungs. Maybe you can notice that with a slightly larger movement as you inhale. From here, we're going to gently extend the arms. You're welcome to have the elbows on the floor. Allow it to continue to be restful. Or maybe you extend the arms out in front of you. Shoulders are soft. If the forehead rests on the floor, you can allow it to rest on the floor. Maybe you have a prop, a little couple of cushions or a yoga block to place under the forehead, just to support the head. If the elbows are coming off the floor, maybe you're creeping the fingers forward, extending through the hands, finding a little bit more space in the back of the body. And just take a moment to check you're not hanging out in the little finger edge of the hands. The weight, it's very gentle weight across the hands is even. It's going to change the rotation of shoulders, keeping the shoulders engaged, our arms engaged. From here, we're going to pad our fingers towards the right-hand side, moving any props out the way. Still keeping the hands, the arms parallel, gazes towards the floor so the head is in line with the neck. And maybe you creep the left hand forwards just a little, extending through the left side of the body. So lymph nodes around the upper chest, the armpit, just creating some space for the lymph nodes, part of the lymphatic system, but they also support our immune system. Slowly coming back to center and taking your time to move over to the left hand side. Once you've come towards the left, maybe extending through the right hand, again to create a little bit more of a stretch, space down the right hand side of the body, also around the right shoulder, right armpit. Slowly making your way back to center and sliding the hands back towards the body. We're going to come into threading the needle quite high up on the knees. I'm going to get some padding for my knees this morning, feeling a little bit sore. So we're coming into a box position to begin with, and then extending the hands. So very similar to extended child's pose. It's kind of halfway between extended child's, halfway between downward dog. And the gaze is towards the floor. Now take a moment here just to work out how your shoulders are feeling. This can be quite strong on the shoulders, on the wrists. You may want to come down to the elbows for a moment. If you pull back a little bit, it makes the shape a little bit softer. And threading the needle, we're going to slide the left hand under and through the right. And this is where you can drop the left ear towards the mat. So if it feels a little bit too strong, you can always have some padding under the left ear, block cushions. And the right hand can stay where it is. If it feels better, it can just pull back a little bit to come and sort of come into a right angle in the right elbow. You've also got the option of wrapping the right hand behind you and allowing it to come into contact with the left hip. And if you're doing that, we're looking for a raising of the elbow, raising of the shoulder, so it's a little bit stronger, being mindful of that, coming out at any point if you would like to. Slowly unraveling the arm if you took the hand to the hip, coming back to our center position, resetting, and then taking your time to move over to the left hand side. So the right hand is sliding underneath the left, head coming to the floor, maybe using support, and then working out where the right hand feels happy on this side. So that might well be different to the other side. So the option here is to keep the hand extended, to draw it back a little so you've got a right angle, shoulder, elbow, wrist, or maybe you take the left hand towards the right hip. So we're working here with the spine, bringing a twist to the upper spine, thoracic spine, supporting the breath. unraveling the arm, taking your time to come back to center and push back into an extended child's pose again. So again, it can be restful or it can be active. Big toes together, knees wide apart. And you may actually want to place the hands or stacked fists under the forehead, just taking a moment to come back to center and a sense of balance between both sides of the body. Focusing on the breath moving into the back of the body. And slowly making your way into our box position again. If wrists are feeling tight, maybe making soft fists or coming down to elbows, and we'll come into our cat-cow. So taking a moment to really spread the fingers, thinking about the weight distribution being even across all the fingers, including the thumb, inner elbows pointing in towards each other, shoulders away from ears. Breathing in, we're taking our gaze forwards, dropping the belly, visualizing the sacred cows of India. And as we breathe out, curling the spine towards the sky, the gaze is going towards the knees or maybe even towards the navel to create that cat position. So we're breathing in to look forwards into cow and breathing out to come into cat. And as you begin to integrate the breath, breathing in and out through the nose, maybe you integrate the pause we were working with at the start of the class. Breathing in to come into cow, pausing, breathing out to roll the spine into cat and pausing. Working with your rhythm, your breath. Taking 2 more rounds here. And eventually making your way back to a neutral position. And we're coming into I call it catfish, gently moving the neck from side to side. So the left ear is going towards the left shoulder and then the right is going towards the right shoulder. And we're going to continue that movement through the spine. So it becomes a little bit like a sort of S shape through the neck and the spine and the shoulders, moving the hips. So not a directional movement we use very often or ever probably in the spine. So just working with your body, gentle swaying motion. And slowly coming into stillness. Releasing the hands, releasing the wrists, and giving the wrists a little roll. We are going to slowly make our way up to standing. So I'm just going to take my blanket, move that out of the way. And if you would like to come onto tiptoes, wake up the toes, coming into our crouching position here. And you're welcome to come to standing on tiptoes and create a balance. If you are going to, thinking about the drishti point ahead and making it a little bit higher than you normally would, so that when you come to standing, you're on the same level, the same focus point to help us balance. So making sure the shoulders are soft if you're coming up onto tiptoes, breathing in and slowly powering through the toes, coming into a balance, allowing the shoulders to remain soft. Is the jaw soft? Is the tongue relaxed? And then gently lowering the heels down. We're going to come into dangling, forward fold, and then through a couple of sun salutations. Having your feet about hip distance apart, take a moment just to lift the toes, spread the toes, and find that sort of stable, even base. We're looking for our weight distribution to be even across both feet. Imagining you maybe have a block or something between the thighs to engage the inner thighs. So something we're gripping there, and shoulders are soft, fingertips reaching down towards the floor. First forward fold of the practice, so bending into the knees a little, making sure the knees are soft. We'll breathe in and reach up. Breathing out, folding forwards, leading with the heart. Maybe the fingertips skim the mat or the floor. Maybe you take hold of opposite elbows, whichever shape feels best for you. Just encouraging the weight to stay even across the feet, bending the knees as much as you need to into this first forward fold. And as this is a morning practice, you may find you're bending the knees a little more just to allow the space to slowly open in the back of the legs. Gaze is behind you, tucking the chin, making sure the neck feels relaxed. Maybe closing the eyes. Focusing on the breath moving into the back of the body. And if you feel the hamstrings, the calf muscles slowly lengthening, maybe you're able to straighten the legs just a little. Sitting bones reaching up towards the sky. To come up, we're going to bend into the knees. Breathe in, reaching up towards the sky slowly. And breathing out to bring the hands back down to the sides of the body. So we'll come into some simple sun salutations, warm up the body. Coming to the end of your mat and just making sure you've got the space to step back and just take a moment to decide whether you want to have your feet together this morning or your feet slightly apart, hip distance apart. And again, finding our stable base. So lifting the toes, spreading the toes, noting which points of contact you have through the soles of the feet with the ground, with the earth. And then as you spread the toes and allow them to come back down, can you keep that contact and that almost lift, that drawing up through the arch of the foot? Thinking then once again about the inner grip of the thighs, shoulders rolling up, back and down, fingertips reaching down towards the floor. So the legs are active. Length through the spine to the crown of the head. Breathing in, reaching up. Maybe the gaze follows the hands. Breathing out, folding forward. So back into our forward fold. We're going to take a couple of breaths here just to allow some more space to come to the back of the body. Shoulders softening away from the ears. On the next inhalation, we're coming to our flat back position. Maybe fingertips skim the mat. Maybe they come to shins. And breathing out to fold forwards. From here, we're going to step straight back into plank today. So right foot first and then left. And take your time to find your plank either on toes or on knees. Spreading the hands. Looking at the hands, taking a moment to make sure the fingers are spread. Inner elbows pointing in towards each other, shoulders away from ears. The gaze is towards the floor, so there's a line from the crown of the head to the heels. Focusing on the breath, so strong position to be in, but we have all the space we need to encourage a full, complete breath. On the next exhalation, dropping down to the knees if you're not there already, coming through chest and then chin, hands under shoulders, elbows tuck in, breathing in to Cobra. And this can be a small cobra, it can be a slightly larger, stronger cobra. Again, listening to your body, listening to what it needs. Just make sure with the hands, you haven't fallen into the little finger edge of both hands. The weight again is even through the hands. Exhaling, folding forwards. Hands coming to mid-chest, tucking the toes, downward facing dog. Finding your dog, hands are about shoulder width apart, feet about hip distance apart, and maybe bringing some movement to the legs here. First downward dog of the practice. So just starting to pedal the feet. Imagine you're pushing away the mat with the hands. So the belly is moving towards the thighs. Space for the shoulders, space for the neck. Maybe tucking the chin a little, lengthening the back of the neck. Option here to drop to knees and step the right foot forwards. If you have the space and you would like to, lifting the right leg behind you, bending the right knee and swinging it forwards into our lunge position. And then bringing the left foot parallel or to meet the right into a forward fold. Taking a breath here and then coming into our flat back. And then as you come into flat back position, shoulders are moving away from the ears. Once again, we have space for the breath. Taking 2 more breaths here. Expanding the lungs in all directions. Breathing out to fold forwards. And maybe immediately noticing how in a forward fold, the breath moves once again into the back of the body. On the next inhalation, bending into the knees, powering through the feet, reaching up towards the sky. And as we breathe out, we'll bring the hands back down to the sides of the body. Release anything you want to. You may want to release shoulders a little. We'll come to the same sequence on the other side. We'll be stepping back into plank with the left. So just taking a moment to reset the feet. Lifting the toes, spreading the toes, finding the stable base. Fingertips drawing down towards the earth. Softness there in the shoulders. Length through the spine. Breathing in, reaching up. Breathing out, folding forwards. We're going to take a couple of breaths here again. Create a bit more space in the back of the legs. Breathing in, flat back. Noticing the space for the breath. Big, full, complete breath. And breathing out to fold forwards. From here, we're stepping straight back into plank. So left toes go back first, right follow. Taking a moment, making sure the hand setup is safe, weight is even across the hands, inner elbows pointing in towards each other, shoulders drawing away from the ears. Belly button towards spine. Length, strength, and then following the breath. On the next exhalation, dropping down to knees if you're not there already, chest and chin, breathing in to come into Cobra. Elbows hugging the ribcage, so really hugging the ribcage, skimming, and then thinking about the hands. As we hug, sometimes the weight through the hands falls on the little finger, so still keeping the thumbs engaged, that thumb side. Exhaling, folding forwards. Inhaling, downward dog, or maybe extended child's pose. So just making the decision for your body. If you're coming into downward dog, maybe bringing some movement again to the body, to the legs. Pushing away with the hands. Hands are about shoulder width apart, making sure the fingers are spread. Thinking about the weight distribution through the hands, shoulders moving away from the ears. Belly moving towards the thighs. And then maybe you come into stillness for a couple of breaths. Encouraging length in the back of the neck. And from here, you're welcome to drop down to the knees and step the left foot forwards. Or maybe you lift the left leg up behind you, bend into the knee and step it forwards into a lunge. Bringing the right foot parallel or to meet the left into a forward fold just for a breath. And then coming into our flat back again. I'm going to take 3 breaths here as we did with the first round. So the hands can come to the shins or maybe the fingertips skim the mat, head and neck in line, and really working with the rib cage. So working with the expansion of the lungs, the expansion of the rib cage in all directions. And slowly folding forwards, bending into the knees, breathing in, powering through the feet, reaching up towards the sky, and breathing out to bring the hands back down to the sides of the body. Just take a moment to move anything, everything you need to. We're going to come back onto all fours, only for a moment. I'm going to work a little bit with the hips here. If the wrists are feeling a little bit tired, sore, making soft fists. So rather than a clenched fist, quite a soft fist. So we're not creating tension in the wrists. Hands under shoulders, knees roughly under hips. So looking for our box position. And as we breathe in, we're going to take the right leg behind us. It can be a little bit, it can be a lot. And as we breathe out, the right knee is coming in towards the chest, and we can tuck the chin towards the chest as well at the same time if that feels okay. We're going to take 4 more like this. So breathing in to take the right leg up. Breathing out to bring the knee towards the chest. So working with the breath, breathing in, we've got all that space to expand the lungs. And breathing out. So taking 2 more in your own time. And when you're ready, allowing the right knee to come down towards the mat, taking a moment to release the wrists. And coming back down to the box position, and we'll work through the left side. So as we inhale, we're taking the left knee behind it. It can be a little, it can be a lot. And as we exhale, drawing the left knee in towards the chest, and maybe the chin tucks in as well. Breathing in, lifting the leg, breathing out to bring chin and knee towards the chest. Taking 3 more in your own time, keeping a softness in the elbows. So working here with Jalandhara Bandha. We have different locks in the body. We use Mula Bandhas, probably the one you're most familiar with, navel towards spine, a little bit of the pelvic floor. Jalandhara Bandha, chin to chest. Working with energy points. When you've taken those 3 on this side, releasing the left knee back towards the floor and taking a moment to release the hands and the wrists. We're going to step the right foot forwards, come into a lunge here. Right knee over right ankle. So taking some time here just to make sure that's safe. And if you know you want a little bit more space created in the left hip, tucking the left toes, taking the left knee back a little bit more. Welcome to stay here Bring the hands onto the hips. Maybe you breathe in, extend the hands upwards, soften the shoulders away from the ears. Gaze can be ahead or maybe up towards the sky if the neck is happy. We're going to take 5 breaths here. We're really focusing on inhaling, expanding the ribcage in all directions. And as we exhale, noticing how they shrink back. On the next exhalation, folding forwards, we're going to straighten the right leg, the right toes pointing up towards the sky, not quite sitting back on the left heel. Hands, fingertips, fists, whatever feels possible here, keeping the shoulders away from the ears so we still have all the space for the breath. Keeping the right foot flexed, active, getting into the hamstrings again on the right hand side in a slightly different way. From here, we're going to rock back into our lunge position and we're going to come up into warrior one. So we're tucking the left toes under. I'm going to hop it forwards just a little bit. And the left foot or left toes are pointing towards about 10 o'clock. Right foot stays where it is in that lunge position. So the right knee is over the right ankle. And from here, you can decide if you want to take a slightly wider stance, maybe hip distance, to encourage the left hip round. Left heel very much flat on the floor. You can have the hands on the hips, on the pelvis to begin with. And you can also play with it. So shorter can feel a little bit less strong in the lumbar spine area. From here, maybe you raise the arms, inhaling to reach up, softening the shoulders. So finding the shape or the space that works for you, works for your body. And then maybe the gaze is forwards, maybe it's up towards the sky. Just listening to the neck at this point. As you take the gaze upwards, it's a much stronger, deeper back bend. Focusing on the breath. Making sure the right knee hasn't fallen in, hasn't fallen out. On the next exhalation, releasing the arms, and we're going to do a little swizzle round. So I'm going to be turning this way, turning towards your left, and we're into a warrior one almost on the other side. So the left knee is over the left ankle, and the right toes are pointing to about 2 o'clock. I always say about-ish maybe, because it's different for all of us. I'm just adjusting my feet to be a little bit more hip distance so that I can bring my right hip forwards. Looking for the right hip, the pelvis, the sacrum, this area to be level-ish. Just helps to have hip distance there. And thinking about the little toe edge of the back foot, just making sure that's engaged. Once you've found your stable stance, maybe you breathe in, reach up towards the sky, softening the shoulders away from the ears, and maybe the gaze follows. We know our breath is the key to many of the systems in the body. So the cardiovascular system, the heart, the respiratory system, our immune system, lymphatic system, which supports the immune system, and the endocrine system, our hormones. We can control our breath. We can also, through the nervous system, support all the other body systems. From here, breathing out, releasing the hands. We're going to turn the right foot in, so the toes are pointing forwards, and drop down onto the right knee. And then we're going to come into our extension here. So straightening the left leg, Glutes moving towards the right heel, moving back, finding the position, and then switching on that left foot. So just taking a moment to make sure the foot is active, toes are pointing up towards the sky. Softening the shoulders, so always encouraging space for the breath. Exhaling, allowing the left foot to come back towards the mat. And we're into our kneeling lunge, Anjaneyasana on this side. So once again, just making sure the knee's safe. You may want to wiggle the right foot back a little. So you create a bit more space in the right hip. Hands come to hips. You're welcome to stay here or breathe in and reach up towards the sky. And we'll take 5 breaths here. So releasing, creating space in the pelvis, the hips, the back of the body. On the next exhalation, folding forwards. We're going to bring the left foot back, come back into our box position, and just take 3 rounds of cat-cow in your own time. So taking your time, bring a little bit of space. Again, nurture the spine. It can feel nice for the neck. If you took the gaze upwards in warrior and Anjaneyasana, feel nice to work with the head, the chin coming towards the chest as you come into cat. Softening the shoulders and the elbows. And then taking your time to release back into any version of child's pose that supports you. Maybe you can make a cushion for the forehead. And taking 3 breaths here. Slowly making your way back up to a seated position. And we're going to come into gate pose. So there's a few different versions, and I'm going to demonstrate all briefly, just so you know how many options there are. I'm going to work with 3 this morning, and you can just choose and play with 1 on each side and work out which suits your knees. Actually, it's the knees in this that we've got to think about. So my right knee is bent. My right foot is directly behind me. Left leg is coming out towards the side. So there's the option here of having a bent knee, knees over ankle, feels quite safe, feels very stable. There's another option of having a little bit of height, extending the right leg. The leg is straight, and I've got a little bit of height there under the toes, or under the ball of the foot, I should say. And that's just going to take a little bit of pressure off the leg. Or there's another option where we extend the leg out, toes are coming towards the floor, towards the mat, leg is straight here. I'm going to take the slightly supported version this morning. So finding the version that works for you. And then thinking about the torso in line with the hips here. So that's what we're looking for, soft shoulders. And then these quads need to turn on. So you may want to take a look at the knee. If you've got your knee, your leg extended, as you tighten up the thigh, you'll notice there's a slight rotation in the muscles in the leg and the knee moves. And that's just to keep the knee safe because it is straight. We're going to breathe in and reach up through the hands. And as we breathe out, we're going to move towards the right. Breathe in to come up. Breathe out to move towards the left. And take that one more time, breathing in, reaching up. Breathing out, reaching down towards the right. Breathing in to reach up. And breathing out to reach down towards the left. Finally breathing in to come back to center, releasing the arms. If the leg is straight, using a hand under the knee to support it coming back up. And then we'll reset for the other side. So you may find that on the other side, a knee, a hip's not as happy as it was on the other side, compared to the other side, I should say. So again, making a moment, just taking a moment, notice what's going on this side of the body. You may find you come into a slightly different shape on this side. Making sure you have any padding to the knees again. The left foot is extended directly out behind my left knee. And if you have extended the leg into a straight position, making sure these thighs, these quad muscles are turned on. So as we turn them on, there's a really quite visual on this side for me, movement here, rotation of the muscles in the knee, keeping the knee safe. Breathing and reaching up, softening the shoulders, and then we're going to breathe out to move towards the left-hand side. We're breathing in to come up to center. Breathing out to move over towards the right. And breathing in to come back to center. And we'll do that one more time. So always breathing out to move down. Breathing in to come up. And slowly releasing the arms. Working here with the intercostal muscles, so really important to create space here into the muscles that support the ribs. Taking the hand under the knee, if the leg's straight, just supporting it coming up, shuffling it back. And we're going to slowly make our way down onto our backs again. So putting any extra layers on that you know you need. We are going to do one more shape position before we start cooling down. I'm just putting a little padding down for my back. So we're going to come into the reverse of cat-cow, actually. The hands are going to be extended. The hands are flat on the floor. The feet are flat on the floor. So it's tabletop pose. If you think this is going to be too strong for you or just too much for wrists and ankles, the option here is to come into bridge, hands by the side of the body, coming up and down. But as you come down, gently wiggling the hips from side to side. So there's an option there to do that as well. If you're coming into tabletop, just encouraging, again, the fingertips are pointing towards the feet, elbows moving in towards each other, and trying to think again about the weight distribution through the hands. So just making sure you're not hanging out in the little fingers. There's a real active motion through all the fingers, through the wrist, shoulders are moving away from the ears. And then we're coming into our tabletop, making the adjustments you need to, lifting through the hips, making sure the neck isn't thrown back, the head isn't thrown back. And then maybe you take the gaze towards the sky. Option here to take lion's breath. So inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth and extending the tongue. You can widen the eyes as well, breathing in through the nose and breathing out through the mouth, extending the tongue, widening the eyes. Last time. And slowly releasing down if you're in tabletop, making your way down if you were working with bridge. Coming back into our semi-supine position, we began with today, and drawing the knees in. So lion's breath, really wonderful for releasing the jaw. We can hold a lot of tension in our jaws and our faces. It's a good way to release tightness in the jaw. Drawing the knees in, maybe releasing. massaging the digestive system. And then bringing the feet to wider than hip distance. I've got my feet almost as wide as the mat. My hands are going to come down towards the sides of the body. And allowing the knees to drop down to one side, whichever side you prefer. We're going to do both sides. If the knees don't quite reach the floor, you're welcome to get cushions or any padding to support them. We're just twisting gently through the spine, releasing the lower back. Slowly coming up through center and taking the knees down to the opposite side. Bringing the knees back to center and drawing the knees in for one last hug. Taking any movement your body feels it needs, maybe some circles. And we're going to slowly make our way into relaxation. So that might be Shavasana for you this morning, extending the legs, palms facing up towards the sky. If there's any tightness in the lower back, you can have a little bit of height. I'll demonstrate with some blocks, not ideal, but a rolled up blanket or a couple of cushions or pillows just under the knees just allows the lower back to settle just a little more. If you have a different position you want to come into that feels better for you, please come into that. And just making any adjustments you feel you need to, making sure you're going to be comfortable for the next few minutes. And making sure you're warm. Breathing in and out through the nose, following the breath. And in relaxation, we're just allowing the breath to flow as it naturally does. Maybe allowing it to flow a little easier with the space we've created in the body. Bringing your awareness to your toes, your feet, your ankles. Allowing a lightness and a softness through the calf muscles, the knees, the backs of the knees, the front and back of the thighs, the hips, the pelvis, the glutes, encouraging softness. Maybe noticing the rise and fall of the belly. Movement in the rib cage. Softening of the collarbones, the shoulders, the upper back. The upper arms and the forearms, the hands and the wrists. Allowing the tongue to rest in the lower part of the jaw. Softness across the facial muscles all the way to the crown of the head. Following the breath in and following the breath out. Taking 2 or 3 deeper breaths into the lungs, maybe even sighing the breath out. Bringing your awareness back into the room, back into the space you're in. Beginning to take some small movements in ankles and wrists, fingers and toes, and maybe gently moving the head from side to side, slowly, mindfully. Taking movements your body's asking for, and maybe a full body stretch and knee hug. And finding your way slowly onto your preferred side. Curled up, knees bent, maybe with an arm supporting your head for a few moments. Finally making your way up to a comfortable seated position. Finding length through the spine to the crown of the head. And maybe bringing the hands together to heart center and Anjali Mudra. Joining both halves of the body together. And taking a moment to thank yourself for practicing this morning. Maybe noticing changes, space for the breath, the mind and the body. I'm going to take my hands to my forehead for kind thoughts, to my lips for kind words, and back down to my heart center for kind actions. Om Shanti.